Let's talk about how to get free from emotional and psychological pain. I think we can begin by talking about the two ways we can burn the rope. So, if we look at it from the perspective of identity, identity is the thing that, in many ways and forms, creates emotional suffering. Why is that the case? Let's take an example. If we identify with a football team, whenever that football team wins, we get happy, and whenever that football team loses, we get sad and upset. The football team has nothing to do with us. Whatever they do or don't do, we cannot affect it. So we give away our emotional stability and well being to circumstances that we cannot control. So that comes from identifying with an aspect of reality that isn't who we are or that we cannot affect or control. And from this perspective, we can see that if I identify with how I look, for example, which seems as if it's me, but it actually isn't, I would get angry and upset if thought that I was ugly. And not even if somebody else thought that I was ugly, even if I thought that I am ugly, I would get angry, upset because of me identifying with how I look. And if we take that to its full conclusion, we'll see that any aspect of reality, which is in and of itself transient, empty, and ephemeral, it changes all the time. So my look will change, but not even my look. If I take some tiny sensation in the body to be me, and that tiny sensation is always changing, always becoming something new and something different, then I'll give away my well being to something that I actually cannot affect. And remember, this is only a view, so if we hold that view to be true beyond its usefulness, we might identify with that view, and so whenever somebody criticizes that view or think that that view is not helpful anymore, then we get angry and upset, even though it was just a view that we put out there to help us seeing things in a different way so that we wouldn't get hurt. And now we've identified with that view, and we created a problem that that view was supposed to help us get out of. Okay, so identity. That's one side of the rope. We can inquire into the nature of who we are by asking us that question. So, who am I? And we can ask us, where am I? And we take a look at what arises. We don't create another intellectual narrative around who I am. We actually look in our experience for who it feels as if I am. And we won't find anything there. We'll just see that, aha, what I took myself to be was just another sensation, something that seemed as if it was me, but it wasn't. And so we can begin to let go of those aspects by seeing that, this was just changing. It can't be me because I recognized it as an experience, and I can't be an experience because all experiences are changing all the time. This is, of course, a bit scary to the ego or the structure that identifies, because the thing that identifies with that process of identification, it takes itself to be necessary for experience to keep on going. It takes itself to be sort of like a lifeline, because if I am not that, if I am not protecting myself against reality, who is going to do that job? And if I'm not anybody, then I'll just lay down and die. But that's just another narrative, another view or belief that is there to distract us from the pain and discomfort that we're actually experiencing underneath. So why it's necessary and useful to take a look at identity and to see that those narratives around identity is actually distractions from the discomfort that is underneath. But taking a look at the discomfort underneath is this third hidden way by which we can become free. So normally when there is discomfort, we distract ourselves with a thought or an idea, and we project our discomfort onto reality and say that, oh, this guy, this person, this whatever is the reason for why I am upset. So I don't have to take responsibility for the feeling that I'm feeling, and I can just blame it on somebody else. And yeah, that kind of works, but it's also really uncomfortable. If we look at it, let's say that the other person who hurt you, he was 100% in the wrong. It was his fault. 100%. You did nothing wrong. Yet you are the one who is in pain. That guy, he doesn't care. He doesn't even know that he hurt you. So, if that is true, then if he was 100% wrong and you are the one in pain, it doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense, right? It's because you identify with something and you give away your well being to those external circumstances that you couldn't affect in the first place. So that's why identity is so important to understand. Um, yeah, I guess this is a little bit controversial and difficult to understand because 99.99% of the world doesn't see it in this way. It, most people doesn't recognize this. Most people use this coping mechanism to deal with ordinary life all the time. Just project and blame somebody else, and it doesn't have to be somebody else. It can also be yourself. Oh, I'm an idiot. I am worthless. I am useless because I can't act in the way that I want to act. So we blame it on ourselves, and we get depressed, and we get yeah all kinds of symptoms by thinking that we did something wrong and that we should have been in a different way to, yeah, and so on. Okay, so that's identity. And identity actually ties into emotions. So the other way of the spectrum is emotion. So, where to begin with this? Let's say that you experience doubt, for example. Okay, so doubt makes it seem as if you somehow don't know, that you somehow might be wrong, that there somehow is some other way that you can act or be, or that you have to figure something out to not be doubtful anymore. And you begin to reject that experience, so you add an extra layer of resistance towards doubt because doubt makes it seem as if it is not okay to be you, as if you are not clear, as if there is a problem. But what's wrong with feeling doubt? There's absolutely nothing wrong with feeling doubt. But because we think that doubt says something about us, so it kind of ties into identity, but without having to inquire into the nature of identity, we can just go to the feeling of doubt itself. If we stay with that feeling, if we feel it and we bring it all the way in, then sooner or later the doubt will go away and we'll have our answer without having to do anything. We just felt it through. And the same goes with any emotion. The distraction from the discomfort by identifying, by creating a narrative around what's needed to be protected, is a distraction from a feeling. And so, whenever that feeling arises, if we can learn to direct our attention towards that feeling, we can experience that feeling as it is. But the coping mechanism has taught us that the feeling is the thing that is wrong, and so it creates reactivity around that feeling, and it starts to distract itself. It starts to project onto others that they are doing something wrong. And that whole process takes a huge amount of psychic energy and is incredibly uncomfortable. But if we can learn to hold the primary energy of the first feeling, it is going to be way better than have to react and suppress and push away just to not have to feel the initial feeling of doubt, for example, or of any inadequacy. This can be the tiniest little thing. Restlessness. Restlessness is one of the last things that falls away here. It's like there is a subconscious belief that you have to do something about it, and you become restless. And then you become restless and you think that, oh, I need to do something, and then you start to react. You start to go out on a spree to like find something that seems as if it's not here already. And that seeking mechanism, it's a great illusion, because it then actually seems as if there is something else, something other to find at some later point in time that isn't here right now. But it's just a distraction from that initial discomfort that you were feeling when the primary feeling arose. And so yeah, we begin to project, or the other way that we deal with our discomfort is by suppressing. And suppressing is like really uncomfortable, because like there's this initial feeling, and then we're like, no, I can't feel that. So we put a lot of pressure on top, and then we tense up, and we're like, no, 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 I'm not feeling that, I have to. And then we yeah, and all that psychic energy that takes is incredibly uncomfortable. So, so what the only thing that we have to do is to go back to the initial feeling. And we shouldn't take this to be to their this process to that for that to be something wrong with us. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. Nothing whatsoever. The whole issue comes from you thinking that there is something wrong with you, from you thinking that you are inadequate, from you thinking that it's not supposed to be in this way. That's why all these coping mechanism, all these strategies of suppression or projection comes into place. That is uncomfortable in and of itself, but it doesn't mean that there is something wrong with you. So by finding these rejected aspects of ourselves, these feelings and emotions, and by bringing them home, by giving them our attention, we can become free. And it's incredibly simple. It's not easy, but it's very simple. It is just giving the discomfort your attention. See that, aha, I've been rejecting myself. This feeling is my feeling, and bring it home. And so there's basically no separation between attention and love. So we love ourselves, we love the discomfort, we love our experience as it is. We see that it's completely fine to be in this way. And then the whole thing just relaxes naturally on its own, because it was just an idea or a belief that there was something wrong with us, that there was something that needed to be fixed, that there was something that was missing. And yeah, it comes from just having been taught that as kids, not being accepted for who we were, being yelled at for crying, or being rejected whenever we expressed ourselves authentically. Um, Yeah, and this can be, of course, incredibly scary to become authentic because we have always been punished for being ourselves. It doesn't matter if it was your parents or your friends or other teachers in school, other caregivers, because basically no one in our society accept themselves as they are. So they project onto others, and so that whole system like sustains itself and creates itself by thinking and that there is something wrong with us. And yeah, and by seeing our true nature, which is peace, love, happiness, whatever you want to call it, which is like underneath all that, you don't need to do anything. It just unravels itself by looking at it and by giving it our attention. If everybody recognized who they actually were, if everybody recognized their own true nature, there wouldn't be a need to fight for peace. All the problems that humanity inflicts on itself is downstream of suffering, of personal, individual suffering. And so, this is why this is the most important problem for humanity to solve. And there's the funny thing about this is that this is the only problem that we can solve. That whatever single action is actually directed towards, whether it knows it or not, is directed towards this. We try to solve the pain and discomfort that we're experiencing, and that pain and discomfort just comes from the rejection of ourselves and of reality as it is. Yeah, so I hope this was helpful. I coach people one on one to help them become free from suffering. So you can just reach out to me if you have any questions or if you need some help with this, and I'll create more videos on this because there is a lot to say. But yeah, I just wanted you to know that this is available to you 100% because I know who you are, and the all the problems actually comes from you not knowing who you are, the need to be special and the need to change, and the inadequacy just comes from not knowing who you are. And so when you know and recognize who you are, yeah, it all is going to fall into place. And that's why I'm so certain that it is available to you because I know who I am, so I know who you are, and I'm not special in any way or form. Um, and so that's why I want you to figure out for yourself who you are. Why wouldn't I?